I
I'm
know.
going to start the recording.
Actually, on our day together, we just adopted him like, and this happened on Saturday.
Oh,
I know.
right out the gate. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome. We are what I am calling the Prego Power Hour, only because Jessica's expecting a beautiful girl. And today we are going to talk about the best and the worst exercises for fat loss.
Yes.
You want to kick us off, Jessica?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're excited to share this topic because I think it can be really confusing, the world of fat loss. And most people's goal is to lose some fat. I haven't ever come across a client who doesn't want to at least lose a little bit of fat. Some clients are more interested in muscle building, but it's usually a combo of muscle building and fat loss. So we figured we'd go over Jeremy and I both agree on what are the best exercises you can do for fat loss, the ones you should be focusing the majority of your time on, and then which are the ones that are completely wasting your time, draining you of energy, and probably in some cases holding you back from progress and actually making the situation worse.
Sure. Now, I will cover, and you actually mentioned it in our texting back and forth, but I'm a big fan, especially when it comes to the anaerobic weightlifting style movements. Any multi-muscle group movement that you can do, squats, deadlifts, these are, I mean, not just in my personal opinion, but scientifically the best exercises that you can do as far as a lot of things, calories burned. If you've ever done them, you know that these are the exercises that get your heart rate jacked up the most. They're fantastic. And even diving as deep into the benefits that it has hormonally on our body is huge. I mean, there's studies that show after heavy deadlifts or after heavy squats, our good hormonal production is through the roof. And so these things play a huge role in an all-encompassing into our fat loss, right, Jessica?
Oh, absolutely. And, you hit the nail on the head when you said all you have to do is try it to prove it to yourself. Like after, just 3 or 4 reps of something like a squat and press, which is where you're holding some weight, a dumbbell or a barbell, and you squat down and then you stand up and you press all the way over your head. You just do like 3 or 4 reps of those and you are going to be so winded. And being winded is a good sign because it means like it takes oxygen to burn fat. So when like fat burn is actually fat oxidization. So when you're sucking wind, like we like to say, that is when your fat is actually, you can just imagine, I like to imagine fat cells as little bubbles that are like popping when they get exposed to that amount of oxygen.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's tons of multi-joint movements that you can do in the gym. And then even, increasing your intensity of some of the other movements or supersetting 2 or 3 exercises together to increase that intensity. You'll see that your intensity and your effort is through the roof when you're actually putting in that amount of effort and volume into what you're doing. It makes a huge, huge difference. And then on the flip side, when you're talking about, traditional cardio style movements, I'm a big fan of anything, again, just as Jessica mentioned, anything that's going to get you sucking a lot of wind, get your heart rate jacked up. And so whether that's interval training on some sort of machine or a full body movement, like you had mentioned, Jessica, like swimming is fantastic as well because you're using everything in your body to propel yourself through the water. All sorts of body weight, plyometric exercises, these types of things you'll see. I mean, you can't even compare just slowly walking on a treadmill versus, doing 30 burpees in a row. I mean, you'll feel the difference in your body.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it can be hard when you're alone without a trainer or you're not in a class to even think of which movements to do. So, when it comes to like the creativity and the building of the workouts, if your goal is to lose fat, just think, how can I use more than one muscle at a time? Like, how can I combine 2 movements into one to get more bang for my buck? And you can do things in a shorter amount of time that way. Like if your plan that day was to do squats and presses, why not do a squat press, and you're going to burn more fat along the way. But one thing I did want to show you guys, I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but this is like one of our Team Live Lean workouts. And it kind of shows like the type of workouts that we put our clients through with like actual illustrations of the movements. So these are the kind of exercises that are going to be the most bang for your buck. And all of these workouts are designed to be 30 minutes or less. So they're quick, you're in, you're out, you've done your job, you've, spiked the right kind of hormones like Jeremy was saying, and worked all your major muscle groups, because our goal with our team members is always fat loss and muscle building. It's kind of a 1-2 combo. So you get the best of both worlds that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where can they get a hold of you?
Oh, those workouts are all found on teamlivelean.com. So I'm going to type that in the box below. Team Live Lean, it's a membership site. It's kind of like joining a gym, but you get all your workouts provided, all your meal plans, and you get asked to ask me and Brad any questions. It's like you're hiring us as your trainers, but it's much more affordable than doing one-on-one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, when you are, how would you say, when you get a new client, how do you kind of take what they want and build something custom for them? If you could explain that, I think that'd be great. Let's say, somebody comes to you and they're like, I just want to look better than I do right now, or I want to lean up, like some of these common terms, tone up, some of these people might be interested. And so explain how you kind of categorize them and would build something for them.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, if any of you who are watching, if you want us to, comment directly on your own personal goals or your personal situation, let us know in the comment section, because instead of just talking about some theoretical person, we could actually talk to you about your goals. So type in the box right now if you have a specific goal and a specific starting point that you want me to talk about. But for now, let's just imagine it's a 30-year-old female who maybe wants to tone up and lose some weight. The first thing I would do is I would have her fill out my questionnaire, which is going to really get to the nitty-gritty of everything and really narrow down, like, okay, exactly what is your goal? Instead of just saying, like, I want to tone up or I want to lose weight, it's like, how much weight do you want to lose? How toned do you want to be? So it's a really, like, as a coach, I think it's important that we really understand what is the vision in our client's mind so that we can actually deliver it. Because if things are so vague, I could just pop you out this random workout, but you might not get the exact results you were looking for. So being super specific about your goals is number one. And then number two, let's see, like for, this 30-year-old female, it's going to depend, her workouts are going to depend on what she's been doing before, what she has access to. If she can only work out from home, then I'm going to give her home workouts. If she's going to the gym, I'll give her gym workouts. And then her nutrition, of course, is going to depend on how much fat she has to lose, what kind of metabolism she has. I always ask people if they know their tendencies, like if they're mesomorph, endomorph, ectomorph. Do you do the same with your clients?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe we should explain that. I think everyone doesn't know what those three things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, essentially the kind of three, let's call them basic body type, and you can kind of be partly in the middle, but we have, ectomorphs, which traditionally are going to be the very thin, very lean. These are the types of people the friends of yours that can eat whatever they want and they don't seem to gain weight. And you're like, ah! Right. And then you have like these mesomorphs, which are kind of like in the center where they can gain some weight if they want, but they stay fairly lean. They tend to gain muscle a little bit quicker than your super lean friends. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have our endomorphs, which personally is what I am. We gain fat just by looking at a piece of cake. But we can also gain muscle fairly quickly, fairly easily. And we tend to be like on the spectrum. The endomorphs tend to be more insulin resistant, and so it's a little more of a challenge, in my opinion, just based on personal experience, managing our nutrition, and all of the temptation.
But that doesn't mean that you can't get lean. You're very lean, like in some of your pictures, you're like veins popping, shredding, and everything. So it doesn't mean that endomorphs have no chance at getting lean. It just means you may have to work a little harder.
Absolutely, yeah. I found nutrition is the answer for all of it. And it just
you're for all three.
Yeah, and it does mean like that my my endomorph clients, which make up a majority of who I train. We definitely have to be a little bit more strict on the things that generally people want to eat, like the plates of pasta and
Yeah.
the extra large pizzas and the candy and the cake and all this stuff. Um, and where some of the ectomorph, these skinny guys can get away with many more cheats than we can. I've found that endomorphs just have to be a little bit more strict and focus on activities and supplements and things that can increase our insulin sensitivity really helps as well. So hitting the higher intensity, doing exactly what we're talking about in this blab, the exercises we're talking about will also help increase your insulin sensitivity, especially post-workout. So these types of things can play a huge role when you're consistent with it over time. And so, higher intensity workouts mixed with adequate, right nutrition absolutely can produce results. You can take your body wherever you want. I've been on stage bodybuilding.
Are there any exercises you would give to an endomorph that you would not recommend to an ecto?
Ooh, definitely with some supplementation, as far as like there are some glucose disposal agents, which they're not like carb blockers. I don't know if you've ever messed around with glucose disposal agents, but okay.
But I've heard of that.
Some people hear that and they're like, oh, are these carb blockers? Are these blocking the carbs from my? No. They're natural supplements like alpha lipoic acid, cinnamon. There's a whole bunch of them that are naturally just going to make our cells more insulin sensitive, and there's several different options on the market. I recommend that to all my endomorph clients because I've personally noticed a huge difference of taking one of those before meals with carbohydrates in it. Our bodies just process it much more efficiently. I've noticed it. Even my pumps in the gym, taking it with my pre-workout meal are much better than they were without. And so I'm a big believer of that and how important insulin is in controlling our body fat or gaining muscle. Anything that we can do, in a healthy fashion to benefit that is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Would you go over quickly what insulin resistant is versus, talk about insulin sensitivity just to clarify for people who may have just joined in?
Sure, absolutely. And so essentially what happens is when you eat carbohydrates and especially like the higher, faster carbohydrates, sugars, very quick carbs, white breads, pastas, this kind of stuff, our blood glucose levels raise and then our body produces insulin. And what this does is kind of handles this elevated blood glucose level, and the end result is either burning it or turning it into glycogen, which gets filled in our liver and in our muscles. And so when that happens in, let's say, an ectomorph body type, these skinny guys, they're very insulin sensitive. And so their blood glucose levels rise because they just ate some carbs. Their body pulses out a little bit of insulin. It responds very quickly. They're back to normal blood sugar levels, and they're in what you could call like this fat burning mode again. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, people like me, we eat carbohydrates, our blood glucose levels rise, our body puts out insulin, nothing really happens because our cells are resistant to that insulin. And so our levels are still high. So it produces more insulin and more insulin and more insulin and more insulin. And this whole process that took somebody else a very short amount of time takes us a very long amount of time. And when we're in this state, our chances of getting that stored as body fat is much higher. Not only that, but if you keep down this road, you're going to get fatter, and your pancreas is going to have to work, many more times than it really should. And this eventually can lead to diabetes because the problem just kind of compounds. If you don't do anything about it, you don't change your ways, then your pancreas is just working harder and harder and harder and harder. And pretty soon it's going to stop working. And this is what can lead to diabetes. So, as we, in general, endomorph, the larger body types are already more insulin resistant, but then also the heavier that we get, the more body fat we get, the more insulin resistant we get. And so it is this kind of snowball effect of it makes it easier to gain fat, but then the more fat we get, the worse the problem gets. And it just kind of compounds into now we've got a major problem.
Yeah. You can see how a person could get, overweight and it could snowball and just get out of hand easily because at a certain point, you could be eating the same meals and then your response is even worse. Like you said, two people eating the same exact meal could have completely different responses based on their insulin sensitivity. So it's a really big thing, and it's not to be taken lightly. And if any of you guys out there feel like this stuff is ringing a bell to you, and like you've been trying to lose weight for a long time and you're really struggling to do so, and you feel like your metabolism is just not working like it should, then definitely, you know, talk to a coach, hire someone to figure out what may be wrong with your diet, or, you know, some supplements, like he said, that could totally change the game for you.
Yeah. If you're looking for a coach, I know two really good ones right here. And we both have proven track records. Matt1683 said, not to be rude, your skin rebounded pretty well after losing weight. I don't know how that would be rude. I'm taking that as a compliment. Yes, my skin did rebound very well. I've never had, I get that a lot too. Like, oh, you must have had skin removal surgery or whatever. I've never had any surgery in my life. I didn't have weight loss surgery. I have not had skin removal surgery. I took care of my skin the best I could. That's the other question I get a lot is how do I help against loose skin? Loose skin in general is going to be dependent person on person. I mean, Jessica's going to experience getting pregnant and stretching her skin out. Yeah. And some mothers have horrible loose skin issues after one child, and others, they've had 4 children. They don't have any issue whatsoever. So a lot of it has to do with your hydration level, the collagen in your skin, the amount of skin damage, the length at which, at which you had it stretched out. And so, it's really an individualized thing. As an example, my first bodybuilding competition, I was with some family members in a bar, and I wasn't drinking. I was just sitting with them in a bar waiting. It was the day before my competition, and you can always tell the competitors. And I might have told this story before on a blab, but you can always tell the other competitors because they have the crazy tan on, the spray tan. And I saw this woman was just right next to me who was all tanned up, and so we sparked up a conversation. And it turns out she had lost 200 pounds in her journey prepping to the stage, and this was her first show, and it was my first show. So I was like, oh, I've lost a lot of weight too, and so we started talking about that. I saw her on stage the next day, not a hint of loose skin, none. This woman lost 200 pounds, skin was tight. I mean, it goes to show you that it's a real personalized thing, because I've had clients that have lost 60 pounds and had loose skin. So I know,
right? It's not about the amount always.
Right. It's about the damage to your individual skin. And so it really,
and just your skin zone elasticity, like it sometimes can be completely out of your hands. It's not something you can do or that you should have done better. It's just the way it is. So we all have unique individual skin types.
Is somebody saying my voice is not sounding right?
I know it sounds fine to me. So I was just saying maybe try a restart, but I hope everyone's hearing us. On Blab, sometimes people say we sound like chipmunks or like a slow, like demon sound. So I don't know why that happens, but hopefully it's okay. Right. How would you know if a person had a sugar addiction? That's a good question. What do you think, Jeremy? Like, what are the signs?
Well, the signs would be if you're having extreme cravings or withdrawals. I mean, an addiction, like any other addiction, is something that you're going to have a hard time handling. I mean, if you take an alcoholic and take away alcohol, what is the response to that? How are you going to be able to tell, what's the reaction? If you're going to know whether they're an alcoholic, if it changes their behavior, if they start only craving that, they can't really focus on anything else because they are addicted, right? And so Jason Bates, I have one. First to admit, you have a problem, and it's true, and it is very real. And I'll tell you, sugar is one of those things, food in general, but especially these higher glycemic carbohydrates, stimulate the pleasure centers in our brain the same way alcohol and drugs and sex does. And so it is very, very easy to fall into food addictions in general, and many people fall into these candy or sweet addictions because we like that response, right? Just as you can have alcoholics and drug addicts and sex addicts, because we get in love with the feeling that it gives us, and we can't stop, right? We encourage the bad behavior and we go forward. Now, it's very, very possible to break that addiction, to cure yourself, and then, in return, be in control over it rather than it having control over you. But there are steps to take. I deal with this a lot with many of my clients all around the world. So,
yeah. So is, or like, you know, if you'll know if you have an addiction if you take it away from yourself and you just can't handle it. That's how you know. And if you do notice that that's the case, your first step is to get help, you know, find help some way, and some person who can be like a support line for you is the best way to get help. Like doing things on your own is always way harder than doing things together. So
Right.
another question about diabetes. Do you have any diabetic clients, Jeremy?
I do. Yes, I do.
I do too,
And
actually.
it's a little trickier only because, you know, you're messing with some pretty scary situations at times. But I've
Yeah.
found it's the best way is to really limit their fast carbs at all times of the day. I prefer slower digesting carbohydrates, especially for my diabetic clients. Things that are really going to be slow and low and not having these huge spikes in blood glucose levels. I mean, that's kind of, in a sense, what got them there to begin with in most cases. And so
Yes.
really focusing on the slower, complex carbs, higher fiber, you know, sweet potatoes, oats, these types of things are fantastic. That I really.
Question is, what's the best exercise for diabetics?
Oh, we lost you, Jessica. Are you still
Oh,
there?
yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it says audio only on my side.
Oh, shoot. That's weird. Still not?
No.
Oh, man. Should I go out and come back in?
Why don't you try that? Yeah.
Okay.
As far as exercise for a diabetic, I don't, you know, it's more of controlling your blood glucose level. So I don't know that it really would be a scenario, in my opinion, and Jessica may have a different opinion, but I don't know that there's necessarily like exercises that you definitely would want to stay away from, other than ones, you know, if your nutrition is on point and you're not crashing from extremely low blood sugar, then, you know, exercising for a diabetic really shouldn't be too much different than any other person, in my opinion. But Jessica, I'm open to yours.
Yeah, I actually just trained someone this morning who has diabetes, and his workout program has just been a little bit different from my other clients in the fact that we've taken it slow and sort of like gradually ramped up to higher intensity. Because when I first took him on, I just wanted to be sure that he wasn't going to pass out from extreme intensity.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of like watching and seeing. But now he's at the point, I mean, I had him doing burpees today, athletic drills on cones, like he was doing all kinds of stuff. So when it comes to what exercise is best for diabetic, treat yourself just like everyone else would, just with slightly more caution, and just make sure that you're not exercising on an empty stomach. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I'm always encouraging him to eat a little something before coming to work out, and then also have something prepared for immediately after if you need it.
Yeah. And that's, you know, Miriam's asking several different questions, but so Miriam, you know, what exercises are good? Everything we've mentioned in here is good. You know, higher intensity exercises, multi-joint exercises, all of these things are fantastic for you as far as your goals. I do recommend, you know, and not knowing where you are right now, if you're not really working out all that intensely right now, I wouldn't recommend going into the gym and just absolutely killing yourself. Like, not, hopefully not literally, but, you know, to the point where you're passing out from low blood sugar or whatever. But like, yeah,
Yes.
taking it a little bit slower and monitoring how much you can do until you do get to that threshold of using up all of your, you know, blood sugar,
And
essentially.
if you feel any sense of like dizzy or lightheaded, then take a break. And like I'm always giving my clients as many rest breaks as he feels like he needs. I don't like push him like it's a boot camp, you know. He can rest in between exercises, take his time, and then get back to it when he feels ready. So that's what we recommend. And then what's enough time? I mean, what's enough time is different for everyone. 4 minutes might be enough for you today, and then maybe 6 minutes tomorrow. You know, you have to kind of build up on it. If you're used to exercising, then maybe you can go a full hour. But if not, I would say take it slow.
Yeah. I mean, I have some of my severely obese clients that are literally, they haven't gotten off the couch in forever. I mean, I have them starting off walking 5 to 10 minutes a day. I mean, just getting up on their feet.
I know, 5 minute walk.
You know,
yeah,
it is a good start and intense for some of these people. So, you know, it really, the amount of time or the amount of effort you're putting in really depends on where you're at and what you can do. So we've got another one. What do you think of beach body programs? Jessica, do you have an opinion on Beachbody?
Yeah, I think that like any big fitness industry thing, they're going to kind of like, it's very salesy, you know, like they do really good marketing, but as far as the programs, I have no issue with that. I do think it's good quality. I think that their programs like what's the one that's called? Or
Is Jessica breaking up for anyone else? Yeah, she is. Yeah. So it looks like maybe you're having some slow internet issues on your side, Jessica. It's again showing audio only, poor internet signal on my side, and then your audio is very broken. Anyway, so she'll try to back out and come back in. But my opinion on Beachbody programs is, yeah, I although, and this is, I'll save my opinion or the details of it. I'm not a huge fan of like the whole multi-level marketing thing and Shakeology and how expensive that is. But the workouts themselves, I mean, could be very, very beneficial if, and the big if, you're the type of person that can push yourself, especially if you're, yeah, you're back.
okay, let's switch to the phone.
Especially if you're the type of person, because most Beachbody programs can be done at home. I do know there's some gyms with some Beachbody certified trainers that'll lead group classes in those. But for the most part, out of their millions of users, most of them are doing them at home. And if you're the type of person that can push yourself, you can get yourself to that level of intensity. Then yeah, it's fine. A lot of their movements, they didn't make up. They're pretty standard movements. They've just packaged them into a nice little well-marketed package. So if you can push yourself and you have the available equipment or whatever you need for whatever program it is, yeah, it's fine. I'm a big advocate of working out in a gym, only because for me, it's being in that environment, being surrounded by other people who are pushing themselves as well. I really think that I perform better working out in a gym. I've done many Beachbody programs as almost just a test. I like to test out competitors' products and just say that I did them. So I've done many Beachbody workouts, and yeah, I mean they're fine. But again, it's all about where you're going to take it, right? If you're strong enough to do 25-pound dumbbell curls, but you're sitting there using 2.5-pound or 5-pound dumbbells because you don't have access to 25s, or you're just not giving it your all, or you're just kind of slacking off, or whatever, you're not going to get much out of the program. But if you push yourself, like any fitness program, if you dig deep and push yourself, you can get great results. Yeah.
Yeah. And it definitely, warning to consumers who haven't been working out at all. If your first workout program ever is Insanity Max, like just be really careful, because I have had clients come to me with injuries from that sort of thing, saying like the worst one was a herniated disc from, I think he was like jump squats or something in his living room. And now this guy, he's like 27 years old or something, and he has this herniated disc, which has causing sciatica and like all these problems, and now he's like stuck doing the stationary bike. That's like all he can do now. So just be really careful, and don't let the adrenaline kind of get away from you, because these programs can be really like, Shanti shouting at you, come on, you could do more, dig deeper. Like you can really get taken away and carried away and push yourself beyond your current level. So just be cautious.
And that same principle applies with a lot of different things. I mean, I've had numerous friends and numerous clients that came to me from, CrossFit as an example of having gone from not doing anything to all of a sudden them being shouted at. The intensity at CrossFit's really high, and they're and I love that. I love the camaraderie, and I love everyone cheering each other on. But when you take a person who hasn't really done anything strenuous for a very long time, and then all of a sudden you're making them do heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, and clean and jerks and all this stuff without any prior training, it's a recipe for disaster. And that's why a lot of people hurt themselves. And so in those scenarios, in starting anything new, I would recommend you go a little bit lighter, go a little bit slower, and give yourself enough time to learn the movements and get that kind of mind muscle connection going, where you're in control of the weights, and you're positive and you're confident that you can do it safely.
Yeah, I mean, that even goes for yoga. Like, I've had clients who come to me with injuries from yoga. So it doesn't matter whether there's an instructor present or not. It's really about, you being careful with your body. Realize this is the only body you have. And of course, you do want to push yourself, but not to the point of injury. So, just with anything you're doing, whether it's body weight or beach body or home workouts, or even if you're coaching with me or Jeremy, like, you have to take care of your own body and be aware when you're about to hurt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty Blonde Girl is saying, if you could recommend only one or two books regarding proper nutrition, what would it be? Do you have any
Uh,
books you recommend?
yeah, one of my all-time favorites of nutrition is Michael Pollan. Do you know who that is? I'll type it in the box for you guys, but that's choosing an author. He has several great books. If I had to choose one of his books, it'd probably be what's it called? The Rules. I should know this. Oh, there's Omnivore's Dilemma is amazing, but I think there's like The Rules of Eating or something like that. He has a great book that's so simple. It's like a children's book almost. It just has like on each page is like a one line or one paragraph um, quote or saying about eating. And it's just his philosophy on eating is just to keep it simple. Eat real food, mainly plants, end of story, grass-fed meats, like
Yeah.
keep it simple. So I really love that.
I don't necessarily have any to recommend that I can remember the names off right now. I'm horrible
Oh my
at
God, I could go
remembering
on. You
names.
want to see my book collection?
Yeah, especially under the pressure. You're like, name that actor, name that author, and I'm like, uh... so I don't have any, but I could get back to you, Pretty Blonde Girl. I mean, you're very, very active on my blabs, and so I will, if I remember it, I will write it down, and I'll make a note to give you a shout out and tell you the answer next time I see you. Mark
I have
Fiddleman.
another favorite one,
Oh, yes, yes.
real quick. It's called Shredded. It's like a bodybuilding book. That was one of my first ones that I ever read, like regarding fitness nutrition. Like that was all new to me. I was like, wait, there's a special type of nutrition for fitness. Like I never got that until I got that book, and it was really eye opening to because it talked about how food can affect your workouts and how your workouts can affect your food and the
Yeah.
relationship between the two. So that was good, but just to warn you guys, this book is written in like the 70s, so it's very old school, and they recommend some foods that now we don't recommend anymore, because nutrition changes over time. So
Right.
like now looking back at that book, I'm like, yeah, this is like not to date, but it is a good book still.
Yeah, and that's kind of with anything, you're going to find if you haven't already that in this industry everyone has their own opinion. And
Yeah.
somehow there's scientific studies to prove both sides of the spectrum as well. So, you're going to find people that are touting, well, it's based on science, and then the complete opposite is based on science. And so
Yeah.
everyone's going to have their own opinion.
Yeah.
And really what it comes down to is, and something that's big for me, I'll speak for myself, is I don't ever want to put a client on something that's unsustainable. I mean,
Yeah.
I have, I don't do too much competition prep. I do some, but that's about as unsustainable as I get, right? They're going to diet hard, and then after the show, hopefully we'll reverse diet properly, and it'll be fine. But with all my normal clients, I don't ever want to put somebody on something where they're like, oh, I'm going to diet, I'm going to hit it really hard for 12 weeks or 16 weeks or whatever, because then they haven't learned anything, right? They've given willpower, and then all of a sudden 12 weeks or 16 weeks later they're going to gain all the weight back, and that's never my goal. So when you are reading these books or reading these blogs or watching a blab or whatever it may be, take it for yourself as well and ask yourself, like, is this something that I really could sustainably do for the rest of my life? I mean, no carb as an example. Are you going to not eat carbohydrates for the rest of your life? Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I
how
know.
many people could say, I'm never going to have a cheeseburger on a bun, or I'm never going to eat another slice of pizza?
Yeah.
Um,
Like,
Even if you're gluten intolerant, there are the gluten-free options out there that would still be a no-no if you're following, a no carb diet. So that's
keto.
why I don't put clients on it. You've got to put it all in perspective and ask yourself if it's sustainable.
Mhm.
Um, the rest, you're going to find people pointing you in every direction that you could possibly imagine. So,
Yeah.
just go into it with kind of a open mind in that regard. Um, Mark Fiddleman asks, my biggest issue is dropping that last 5 pounds to show six-pack abs. I really struggle with this. Do I really need to do a bodybuilder diet to get there?
That's a great question. And I know the frustration. Like, I've worked with so many clients that, our main clientele is working with people who have that last 5 to 10 pounds. Jeremy was saying he works with more of the obese population. Our population is usually that person who's fit in good shape, but just struggling to get to that final, end result that you're looking for. So that is our specialty. And no, you do not need to go on a bodybuilder diet to get there. That's not, Brad and I don't recommend the bodybuilding diet. It's not part of our philosophy. It's not what we teach. But that being said, you do need to dial in your nutrition, and you need to get really serious about what you're putting in your mouth, because that really affects that last 5 pounds. Like it does, you can attest to this, Jeremy, but like when someone's obese, like what you put in your mouth is the first step to getting out of that. But then it's like it gets even harder as you get closer, right? When you say the last
Absolutely.
5 to 10 is
Oh, yeah.
like the most important.
Yeah. And I even have a digital ebook on my site called The Final 10, because although a majority of my one-on-one clients are obese clients, I mean, every fitness professional gets asked the same question, like, how do I lose the last 10
Yeah.
pounds, or how do I lose the last 5 pounds?
Yeah.
And so I wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
And so Mark, to answer your question, a bodybuilder diet could mean a lot of things to a lot of different bodybuilders. If you're talking about only living off of, plain chicken and broccoli and tilapia, no, you certainly don't, in my opinion.
That's the
You can have
diet.
That's the bodybuilder diet, and you can live off way more than that. You can have a nice, flavorful, well-rounded diet and have abs. I know many people that do it. I do it,
Yeah.
and so
Well,
and so yeah, but again, a lot of it's going to be, finding the right quantity of macros that's going to hit those needs for you. Maybe you're overeating on some carbs or fats, or you're, whatever. Maybe changing up your the intensity of your workouts is going to be that little thing that's needed to kind of push your body to the next level. Maybe it's a combination of both. And this is what Jess kind of really specialize in, is kind of taking these individual issues, these individual desires and goals, and turning them into a reality. So, I mean, it's very, very possible for you though, Mark.
the issue could be with your workouts. It could be with your nutrition. It could even be with supplementation, meaning something's missing from your diet that could be affecting your hormones, like we said. So working with someone like us, we're going to look at the whole picture and figure out what's wrong based on all the components, instead of just making you work out differently or just changing your diet. It's not going to be one thing or the other. I mean, quite honestly, it could be your insulin sensitivity or something that you wouldn't even think of. So don't give up. Don't rule out your ability to do this, because I truly believe anybody, any body type at any stage in their life can get shredded. Like, it's absolutely possible for every human being.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like I'm a walking example of that,
Yeah.
once being very obese and now having, been on a bodybuilding stage and powerlifting stage and keeping a pretty decent physique year round for many years now. It's a testament to the fact that it can be done. And, I've got a blab on Sunday with a woman that lost 220 pounds and now is a competitive physique, bodybuilding physique woman.
God,
I mean,
cool.
again, there are people out there that have done it, like lots of them. And so don't give up. I mean, if I can lose well over 100 pounds and this chick can lose 220 pounds, Mark, you can lose the last 5 pounds. That's for sure, brother.
I mean,
don't even worry about that.
Wait, I wanted to know, I had a question for you regarding that. I can't remember what oh yeah. Like, so back when like you were first starting out, did you ever think that you wouldn't be able to get 6-pack abs, or, you'd never be able to get as lean as you wanted?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no. I always believed in myself. And I think that's what, I think that's what really kind of pushed me, and something that I've done several interviews on this. And one of the things that I did and I encourage my clients to do is think big. And so I pictured myself as a big, muscular, lean guy, like turning heads when I walked into a room. It was a sensation that I'd never had before, having a weight problem my whole life. I never turned heads walking into a room. I was never, I never felt attractive. I never felt desired. I never felt that stuff. But we can watch movies and we see these superheroes walking into a room and they glow and everyone's attracted to them. And I took kind of what I thought that would feel like and envisioned myself at that level. And that was my big picture. That's what continued to drive me. But with that said, I always made small goals to get there. So, and that's exactly, I mean, you do any sort of self-help or business development or anything, they're all going to say the same thing, right? Dream big, but take these small little incremental steps and shoot for small goals. And, you do that, you make these small goals consecutively, you're going to conquer that big, that big goal. So, I don't know that there was ever a time where I was like, I can't do it. I'm never going to get there. That's never been me with anything in life.
That's cool. Right.
But a lot of work. Did I know how much work it would be? No, not even, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
But worth it. Definitely worth it.
That's great. And yeah, that's a great message for all you guys out there that may be frustrated with where you're at with your fitness goal. Just know that the belief is like the number one ingredient. So like for you, Mark, if you believe that it's possible for you to get rid of that last 5 pounds, that is going to be a huge step in the right direction. Instead of just constantly doubting it or being frustrated by it, just keep believing that it can and will happen, and keep trying different avenues, different strategies. Yeah, you need a roadmap. Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So reach out to someone who's done it. Reach out to someone like Jeremy who knows exactly that roadmap, who's written the roadmap,
Yeah, Mark, definitely. I mean, either way, whether you pick up the book or not, feel free to shoot me an email. You can send it from my site or my Facebook or whatever. And, I'm more than happy to talk about some finer details. Dejeter, what's a good immediate meal after working out if you're having digestive issues with protein drinks? That's a good question. And what I've found a lot of times is that if people are having digestive issues with protein, which I've had many of them, it's simply that brand of protein. I've had to switch protein brands and have found that there's some other additive. It's not just the whey concentrate or the isolate. That there's some whey powders that just do not agree with me at all. And so switching brands has really helped me. Another thing for people that do happen to be a little sensitive to milk products or dairy products, sticking with 100% isolate protein is your best chance, because many of them, like IsoPure or Isos, all of those, they're essentially lactose free. Many of them are very, very, very low lactose. And so, that would be my recommendation, is just try switching a different brand. If you already know you have an issue with dairy, are we getting our guest star?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Sweet. If you happen to know that you have an issue with dairy, going to like an IsoPure brand or any of the other pure isolate proteins is your best bet, because many of those are lactose free or so minuscule on the amount of lactose it has.
Yeah.
But going with like the generic cheap economy whey products, those are going to have the most lactose in them, because majority of that's just whey concentrate. It's like the bulk, the cheapest bulk whey protein that you can get.
And like in all things in life, you buy the cheapest version and you're going to suffer some consequences. So, I mean, it's not true in all cases that expensive is better, but I would say for the most part, you're going to get what you pay for when it comes to your supplements,
Yeah, big time.
Do I eat protein every day? I did before pregnancy. Now that I'm pregnant, I am not. I'm not taking any supplements other than prenatal vitamins. That's it for me right now. But when I am working on my fat loss and muscle building goals, yes, I do have it every day that I work out, which is not every day, but it's most days, usually 5 out of the week. Yeah.
Another thing, Dejeter, would be getting some sort, and again, this is going to depend on the scenario. So I'm not specifically telling you to do this, but definitely my go-to recommendation for most people, if they've had an intense workout, would be some sort of carbohydrates after your workout as well. And this can range from, depending on your goals, this can range from very, very, very quick carbohydrates, even like carb powders, all the way to slower digesting carbs like sweet potato or fruit like an apple or banana. And so all the range in between. And again, it's going to depend on you as a person, how you respond to different foods, where you're at in your journey, what your goals are. But you really, I mean, again, going kind of to the general rule of thumb that eating real whole foods is always going to be your best option.
Yeah.
You can't beat like a protein shake with a piece of fruit. I mean, you're getting some quality carbohydrates that are coming from real sources and some quicker proteins to hit your muscles and create that, that recovery as fast as possible post workout. I mean, it's really kind of a go-to that you're going to be fine either way.
Yeah, and you know what, for people who like, if you feel like you've tried 10 different brands and they all make you sick, and it's just like you're tired of switching brands and trying different protein powders, and you really just don't like protein powder, maybe you don't like the taste, maybe you don't like the idea of it, you can get away with eating whole foods. I mean, that's what people did before protein powder existed. Like,
Right?
realize that this is it's a modern, convenience that's just recently been invented. So you don't have to have that. Yeah, if they're all making you sick, then I'd say
Yeah.
ditch protein powder. You don't have to take any supplements, honestly, to get lean, strong, muscular. Real food can do the job for you. It can take you all the way. I have no doubt on that. And like we always encourage real food first before supplements. In some cases, real food at all. That's all you need, And when I'm working with new clients, I always make them stick to their real food diet before even discussing supplements. I want to make sure that my clients can actually fulfill their nutrient requirements before we even talk about supplements, so it's never the first thing you want to add to your new diet. Like, get your diet right and then talk supplements.
Absolutely. Yeah. So eat a real meal. There's the answer right there.
Yeah, like I used to take a Tupperware to the gym with like maybe 3 to 4 ounces of chicken breast and, like a serving of sweet potatoes and a serving of vegetables. And that would be it, like 3 things in a Tupperware. And that's what I would eat post workout.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about protein shakes in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely real food is the way to go.
Yeah.
Especially if you're having an issue already with protein shakes. I mean, yeah, the protein shake is going to hit your system a little bit faster, but definitely not needed. It's not like you should throw your hands up in the air and say, "Well, I guess I can't get to my goals because I can't have a protein shake."
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
you know,
yeah, never do
protein
that.
shakes are a newer thing anyway, and so
Right.
people have been getting,
They're optional.
yeah,
But
people have
I
been
do
losing
put
weight
them
and
on all my clients' plans. Like, I'm sure you do too, Jeremy,
yep,
right? Like, you usually put them in your clients' plans, like,
yeah,
because we are recommending intense workouts. So we, want that kind of quick recovery. And a lot of times in my clients' plans, I'll have like protein shake blended with banana and berries or something like that will be their post-workout meal. And then
yeah,
I just make note that on your non-workout days, just eliminate that shake and everything is going to fall into place. Your macros and your calories will be where they need to be just by taking that shake out. So it's an easy thing to put in and out of your diet, whether you work out or don't work out. It's just so convenient and easy and simple. And it
yeah.
doesn't require cooking. So that's like
That's always a plus. Cuts down on that meal prep.
yeah,
Yeah,
it does. But if they're making you sick, like you said,
stay away from them.
Delaying Jay, yeah, then just don't bother. Yeah, it's worse to be sick than to have a little inconvenience from having to cook.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the worst exercises for fat loss.
Oh yeah. Good. We kind of got off our topic,
We
didn't we?
did. We went on a little tangent here, but I'm glad that we got some questions answered too. That's really good. And the
Yeah,
interaction's why we're here anyway, guys. So if you
yeah,
have a question, whatever, or if anyone wants to jump on this open seat here, if you've got a webcam and a headset or something and want to jump on and let's interact. But worst exercises for fat loss. First and foremost, I think, and we covered this already, is the intensity in which you're giving plays
yeah.
a huge
With
role
any
into
exercise.
right any exercise. I don't know that there's without a doubt like this one
Hey,
piece of equipment in the gym that you should never even come close to because it's not worth it. I think you can make almost anything intense and getting to your goals. But with
yeah.
that said, we've all seen the person just moseying on the treadmill or sitting on the elliptical, just barely, they're not sweating. Their heart rate's
I,
barely getting
yeah.
to like above 120.
I
They're
kind of
they're
think the elliptical is the worst because it's just so easy to ride it and just do nothing. The machine kind of works itself when you stand on it. So it's like so easy to be lazy on that machine, like easier even than a treadmill, because it just kind of has this like rhythmic circular thing going on
yeah,
and you can just basically do nothing. So I think that is probably my number one least favorite machine in the gym for people who are trying to lose fat. I mean, You know, it just is
Yeah.
really kind of wasting your time unless you're really working hard, which you can't
Right.
do.
Right. That's what I was going to say. If you're in it mentally and you're pushing yourself, and you know,
Yeah.
the one thing I do, I recommend the elliptical on because
Just
because
roll
it's
things.
it's safer is like if you're doing high intensity intervals, if you're doing like 30 seconds of an all
Yes.
out sprint or 60 minutes, for me
Yes.
personally, I could never sprint. I know people do it all the time. I could never sprint on a treadmill. I would be that Vine or that YouTube video you see of the guy just face planting and rolling off the end and getting all sorts of burns all over his body from the thing. Like it's just that would be me. And so,
That's funny.
doing the intervals on something you are more planted on and have control over, like an elliptical or a stationary bike or something like that, is always
Yeah,
a good thing. But she's right.
I
The
agree.
elliptical just kind of goes. And so if you're not in it mentally and you're not pushing yourself, then yeah, it is very easy to be like, oh, I did 30 minutes on the elliptical, but you got yourself nowhere. And there are many
Yeah.
studies that show if you are not putting in, you know, a level of intensity like that you could actually be doing more harm than good to your body in
Yes.
lowering metabolism, hormonal issues, all this stuff by
Yeah.
doing these kind of mindless non cardio movements. Your body just does not respond really well to them. So intensity is the
Yeah.
key. Intensity is the key. I'm a huge fan, and in my nutrition guide or in my fitness guides, any of my clients on here know this. I say stair mill or stair stepper are my preferred cardio
Me
equipment.
too. Yeah,
But
me
I
too,
allow
actually.
them, I allow them to change it up if they would like to, whether it be a
Yeah.
rowing machine or whatever. I mean, I change it up all the time too. But anyone who's ever
Yeah.
stepped on a stair mill knows that it
Oh,
will
yeah.
kick your
It's
butt. It will,
serious.
yeah, it is.
Absolutely. In a very short amount of time, too. That's, I think, my favorite thing about it, too, is you don't need 30 minutes on the stair mill. You know, you just don't, like, good luck even getting
Yeah, if
there,
you
you know?
can get to 30 minutes, wow, like that's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
had it either on a very, very, very slow
Yeah.
rotation or you're a cardio queen. Um, Pretty blonde
Yeah, I
girl.
could see.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I could see how you feel that way, but you could also think of it as they're created from heaven as the world's best fat burning machine.
Ah, you're right. The heavenly fat burning machine is
Yeah.
good. Um, I kicked my own booty on the elliptical with HIIT. The pre-core doesn't move itself. These things are created.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with what you said. Like, if you're going to get on the elliptical and do sprints, then by all means go for it. And you, like you said, you're probably safer. You're less likely to end up in a fail video.
yeah.
And, you can still get a really good workout if you bring the right mindset. So, I'm sorry for hating on the elliptical. I hope you guys are mad at me.
And then,
Not the worst.
another thing too would be, and again, applying the principle of it's the intensity you bring to it, all sorts of body weight, whether it be plyometric circuits that you can do, uh, even things like burpees, jumping jacks, jump
Yeah.
squats, lunge jumps, bear
Yeah.
crawl. I mean, you name it. Like you bring that level of intensity and doing things like burpees and bear crawls and all these things, they're using almost every muscle in your body. I mean, when you're in that movement, your legs, your abs, your shoulders, your back even are being engaged in these movements, and you're burning a tremendous amount of calories. And you will see that doing that, your heart rate has no choice but to go sky high. You're huffing and puffing. You're really, really blowing a lot of wind. And so it's bringing that level of activity or
Yeah.
intensity that really are going to bring the results. And so when it comes to worst exercises, it's really the ones where you're not really exercising. And I think we've all seen the people in the gym that you're like, yeah, at the rate you're
Yeah.
going, you're not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Never going to get.
You know?
I know. Yeah, so there is no one worse move. It's just like the way that you do it. The way that you do everything is important, I think, in life. I remember my grandma used to always say it's about the way that you do it. It's about your intention behind it. It's about the passion that you put in, the detail oriented nature. Like when you do burpees, don't just do them super sloppy. Like make sure your muscles are engaged, your abs are tight, your legs
Yep.
are tense. You're doing everything like with control. That's so important.
Yeah. Uh, JRL B-Day 4. I like JRL. That's cool. Um, is it better to run outside versus using a treadmill? I have heard that technically running outside burns more calories just because of the surface and the unevenness of the surface, and it causes us to I don't know. Does it make that huge of a difference? I'm not sure, but I do know that I've had clients that were forced to, they're avid runners, and they live in, where it's covered in snow outside, so they're not going to be running outside. So they do their runnings indoors during the wintertime, and the comments come springtime when the ground clears is always the same. They're like, "Oh, I'm tore up. I'm so sore," because their body got used to running on the treadmill, which is cushioned. It's got a little bit of a give, and so then you go outside where the earth has no give, and so it really does tear them up. How much difference does that make, calories burned or effort wise? I don't know. And then you could go as far to say that, trail running or that kind of stuff is going to be way better because you're all over the place. But again, I think it has more to do with the effort you give. You could be walking outside and you're going to burn way more calories on a treadmill if you're running. So it's the effort that you really put in and going towards your goals. I mean, if you're a marathon runner, then train outside. Train outside, because that's where you're going to be running the marathon. But if you're just trying to, like what's his name that was losing the last 5 pounds of fat, I could care less where he does his, indoors or outdoors. He needs to be giving effort. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So,
what the other weird thing about treadmill versus outdoors, and, I don't know how true this is, but they say that when you're on the treadmill, you're using more quad muscles, you're more quad dominant, and when you're outside you're engaging your hamstrings more, which is better because hamstrings and glutes are like our 2 biggest muscles we have in our body and most powerful for your hormonal environment, for your overall strength and everything. So you want to be engaging your hamstrings, but when you're on a treadmill, the ground is moving underneath you, so you don't have to pull anything back. You know what I mean? You're stepping forward and it's pulling itself back, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's it's
crazy.
So it's
I'd never heard that, but
ground,
it makes sense.
You have to accelerate, but when you're on a treadmill, you have to keep up. So it's a different exercise, really.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is approaching 1 o'clock. Does anyone have any other questions at all? Any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace until we get on the air again. All right. We've got somebody wanting to come on the air without a profile picture. I always hate doing this, but I will let you on, Aslan. You better be good. If you're not good, I'm going to kick you off.
And only for 5 minutes, right? So
and we're ending this real quickly.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, but I don't know how to turn my cam on. Pardon me.
Okay.
Actually, I used to be a weightlifter, but I have this problem with my left knee. Okay, so I want to lose weight, but they tell me I want to lose it naturally. They tell me you have to take this kind of not supplements, kind of drugs like Lipo-6 or hydroxycat. I want to lose it. How can I say it? Natural. And if you want to lose weight, you have to do a lot of cardio. Okay. But I have this problem with my knee. So if I run or go on the elliptical for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I feel like hell in my knee. So I can't continue.
Yeah. Well, I certainly don't think you need to take hydroxycut or any of the fat burners to burn fat. I actually look at those more as energy supplements, if anything else. I mean, if you're having a hard time getting energy, they're loaded with stimulants. So, if you're going to use those, use it for energy to do actual exercise. That's where the real, that's where the real calorie is going to go. Now, there's plenty of, and I've been friends with some that are, they have no legs and they have great physiques. And so if somebody with, right, you can.
I'm gonna move towards the other room. Pardon me.
Oh, sorry. The sound is really bad.
Yeah. We're having a hard time hearing you. But if there are things like maybe swimming would be a little less impact on your knee.
Actually, I don't know how to swim.
Don't know how to swim?
You got to start somewhere. Take a swim lesson.
Yeah.
Take a swimming lesson. They'll teach you.
Actually, I have this good physique, but the problem I can't lose weight on the stomach area.
What?
Yep. Well, again, a lot of that nutrition plays a lot into that. It's still very, very possible for you to get adequate exercise. And, where there's a will, there's a way. So if it's taking swimming lessons to learn how to swim so that it's lesser impact on your knee, or using a hand bike, or, something that utilizes just your upper body, I guarantee there's a way for you to find, your solution to get from point A to point B. I always kind of go back to the, people use like knee injuries and all this stuff as, I'll call it excuses, but that's what they feel is standing in their way a lot. And a lot of times I'll point them to bodybuilders who are shredded on stage in a wheelchair, who don't have the use of their legs or have no legs at all. If they can make it happen, you can make it happen. Find an exercise that's less impact on your knee, and then also take a look at your nutrition, because that's going to play a big role in it as well. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
one
guys.
other thing I would say, is just focus more on the nutrition than the exercise, because you might get yourself really hung up on like which exercise can I do and what's going to not hurt my knee and everything, when you'd probably get better results by spending more of your mental energy and your time and your attention on what you're eating, and if it's actually right for your BMR and your goals and everything. You want to keep yourself in a deficit, and it should be possible for you to lose fat completely naturally without any exercise at all if you had your diet right.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for
You're welcome. Thanks.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, sure.
You too. Take care.
Take care. See you.
All right, so we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, there's Pretty Blonde Girls asking if we teach our clients to figure out their macros after they're done training with them. Yes, normally I will cover that with my clients of like, what's the next steps? Hopefully it's re-signing up with me. If it's not, usually that we'll talk about specifics on direction that they should go on their own after that.
Yeah,
Jessica?
for me with my clients, honestly, the answer is no, because what I do is I calculate my clients' macros for them, because I feel like that's pretty much what they're paying me to do, right? And so to sit with them and teach them how to do it themselves, I feel like a lot of people don't even care. They don't want to know. It's like too bothersome for them. They're not interested in counting, and that's why they kind of outsource. So after they're done coaching with me, I usually, get them to a point where they're comfortable eating the amount of food. Like I only calculate their macros once or maybe twice if there needs to be adjustments made, right? And then they just eat the foods that are on the plan, and they get used to eating that, and then they can eat that for the rest of their life. So, with our type of coaching, I don't want people counting macros and counting calories for the rest of their life. So in my opinion, a lot of them, they don't even need to know how, if it's not their specialty, if they don't want to become a coach in the future, they don't need to know. They just need to know which foods are the right ones to eat and how much of them, and then they're good forever.
Right. Yep. No, and the way you worded it actually is pretty much what I do. It's not like I create a new separate a nutrition plan for them after they leave with me.
No,
it's
they
more
just
of
eat the same thing.
I've given you the knowledge and the tools, and you've been eating this the whole time we've been together.
Yeah. Keep going.
This is, keep going with what we've been doing. The only thing would be is if they've got something coming up or some change, I may give them a little bit of advice on where to go from there. But no, I certainly don't do all the work again for them after.
Yeah, or make them like boggle their minds with all these numbers and stuff, because like I think one of the number one complaints I get from people is they're too frustrated with all this counting and like calculating they have to do, and fitness doesn't have to be like that. Like hopefully through these blabs with us, you guys are kind of learning that our approach is not that mathematical. It's not all technical. It's really just about solid exercise and good nutrition. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. I mean, there are, for certain situations, we can get more technical. But for the majority of clients, all you need is accountability. You need a reason. You need to work hard towards your goal. And it's pretty simple,
Yeah, definitely. All right. That wraps it up for us. Jessica, it was a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for joining in, and just stay close to our Facebook pages and Twitter accounts. We will be posting in the future when we both have blabs going on again or do another one together. So just stay close to us, and we appreciate all the interaction, and have a fantastic day.
Yes. Thanks for your questions and interaction. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Peace.
Bye, Jeremy.
Bye.